Well, welcome to the MySaw workshop. We're working on my wife's sewing cutting table. We need to put some trim on this thing. So we're going to have trim that we need right here on the edge of this plywood face. That's going to be a 1/4 inch thick, and it's going to run top to bottom here, fit in this little notch. And we're going to need trim around the drawer unit here with this inset. So we'll need 1.5 inches of trim to fill in this space right here, and it'll go on each side and across the bottom. So we've got our calipers out here, and the thickness of this plywood is going to be 1/64 less than 3/4 of an inch, or 47/64. So we'll mill our wood to that thickness, and then we'll cut it to the 1.5 inch and cut our 1/4 inch pieces for the trim over here out of the milled wood. We'll be milling that out of maple, which I'm using for all the faces and trim work on this project. So let's get started on that. And oh, by the way, going to be using this. So let's see what happens here. I'm getting the dimensions that I'll need for the top and side pieces. The stock I'm using is 62 inches long, and as it turns out, I can just split that into two 31-inch pieces and have room to work with. I use my chop saw for rough dimensioning lumber. We'll take these pieces over to the table saw and use the table saw as a flat surface to see which surfaces need to be planed. I'm putting an X on the ones that do need to be planed. Also going to check the thickness of them to see if I've got enough to plane on these, and do a couple final checks on these 4 boards. And so we've got them ready to go. In the joiner, that one just needed a straight edge. I put my mark on it. Next one does need to have the surface planed. A couple of passes through the joiner. And we've got that, and then we're going to put a straight edge on it and put my mark on it, so we're ready to go back. So I'm preparing the milling for the stock for these facing and trim pieces. And what I need to do, I ran them through the joiner, and I've got a decent straight edge on them. So I'm going to just take the hand plane and get me a really nice dressed edge on each one of them on my square side. So let's do some hand planing. I've got all the machines turned off. It's nice and quiet. And let's see what we hear here. I'm checking to make sure the planed edge is still square to the face. On every board that you plane, you need to determine the grain direction so you can plane with the grain. Who knows? On this board, there was no clear direction. You can tell from the rough sound that the plane is making and the shavings that look like sawdust that I am going in the wrong direction to plane this board. It's terrible. That's better. I got it. That'll work. Okay, so I've decided I'm going to thickness these with a hand plane. They're pretty close. So I've got my marker here set to 1/64 less than 3/4. And I did that by taking and setting my marker right there. Then I learned just a second ago when doing this needs to be really tight. I can just got this in the vise so it doesn't move. It's just you can get a lot better mark doing it this way. You can see how easy this Horvader vise is to operate. It's 1/4 of a turn and you're tight, and it's just wonderful. So I've got this cut on both sides, and we just got to mark the rest of them. It's kind of interesting, the difference in the wood and what it takes to pull these lines in each one of these pieces of wood. But then that's why we do this. This is wood, and this is what makes it enjoyable. So I'm going to set up to plane these over on the other side, so we'll be right back. It's probably the best plane I have for all kinds of stuff. It's really kind of my jack plane. This is what Rob Cosman calls the feather edge, sitting right there. So we're getting there pretty quickly. Okay, this is what happens when you see if you can see those. That's what happens when you mark it the way I did. And you get down and you take that last little piece off. That's Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Lie-Nielsen working really, really well together between marking and planing. So I think we've got that one down. Let's measure it. And boy, it's nice feeling too. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So I'll put my mark back on it. And that's just my little curly Q mark on the side. If it's hitting here, that tells me this is my flat side and this is my square face. That's just the way I do it. Everybody's got a way to do it. So there's one down. Boy, that's fun. I do love my planes. I'm always interested in a board when you first start planing it, it sort of skips. And it's something that if you're new to planes, it takes a little getting used to and a little understanding of what's going on. The board's not flat. You can run it through your joiner. You can think it's flat, but it's not flat. And so when you start doing this, you watch it, it's going to skip. And those are the two high points. So you just be patient and keep control of it. See, it's got a high point right there in the middle. And on the end. I've also found that that finger up there makes me lean in a little better. If I don't have that finger up there, I don't lean in quite right Let's just do some planing. Boy, this thing is just glassy smooth. Wow, that's nice. That's what planing's all about, is a glass smooth finish. Makes you happy. There we go. Nice. That's 2 boards. I'm going to turn the cameras off because I got plenty to show you. So this is what you end up with. I always say shavings make me happy. There's nothing like it. It's not a machine running in the shop. It's quiet as it can be. And I'm getting a workout. So I'm going to turn this off and do 2 more boards and might call it a day. Thank you. First step is we're going to fit the 1.5" trim to the drawer unit. The drawer unit's upside down, so this is the bottom because it's the edge that gets the trim. And I've gone through the 3 pieces of 1.5" trim and selected which side will go on each of these, and which will be the top and which will be the 2 sides. So it's going to look something like this. On this top up here, I've got pocket hole screws that I pre-drilled. I knew I was going to be doing this, and also down this line here. So the next step I've got to do is to cut these 3 pieces to length. Okay, we've got the table saw work done. Got our 3 pieces cut to length. We're ready to pocket hole them. So this top piece, or actually it's the bottom piece, it's upside down right now. It's cut to length. So this is the hair, and this will be the side piece. It's going to fit in there. And we've got the other side piece over here. I've got some kind of unusual markings on these if you're wondering how I kept track of what's going on. I don't know if you can, yeah, you can see that. See those 3 dots? Well, I've got 3 dots here, and I've got 4 dots here, and I've got 2 dots over here. So it not only tells me where the board goes, what the orientation is, and what's up and what's down. It's just, you know, ways you have to figure out to make things easier, so you don't have to keep figuring out which edge is the dress edge and which edge is the surface, the connection edge. That's what I did. So I'm going to clamp these up and start doing pocket hole work here. You've seen this before, and I'll just work along here and let y'all watch. I'm going for this surface here to be smooth with the bottom. This will be outside the casing, so this won't show, but the critical point is for this to be absolutely smooth all the way across. And so I'm going to tap that into place real gently and then put my pocket holes in there. So this is now right side up. So this is what the trim piece will be. It'll be a 1/4 inch board here for the drawer front. So this will be just a dressing piece here to make this look better. Then we got to put the end pieces on. This is when your marking system becomes your friend, because now that I've flipped it over, my brain would probably flipped with it. But I got 2 dots down here. So I got to find the board with 2 dots on it, and then that goes this way. So there we've got it. Well, we're ready to put on the 1/4" trim on the front of these shelf units now. When we cut the 1/4" trim, each cut that I ripped a 1/4" piece off, I went back and got a new plane, hand plane surface. So each of these pieces has a saw cut side and a hand plane side. So I've identified the saw cut side, but just put an X on it real quick on each of the pieces. The next thing I did was to, I've got to cut all these to length. So I needed to make sure I could get them back on the same place that I cut them for. And I used my dot method. And I've already marked these and get them ready to measure. So next step, we just need to measure them. I got one mark here, one mark here. I've got a square edge down on this one. Now this is going to be underneath another piece of molding here, so the length is not real critical. I'll take my finer pencil and just put me a line up there. I'm just going to hand cut these because there's just nothing to them with a cross cut saw. I'm going to make sure that I don't cut them too long. So that was easy. So next step here is to, I'm going to staple these on. I'm using Senko 3/4" brads for this, 3/4" pins, I should say. So that's 3/4" pins, and I'm using this Grex pin nailer. I think it's the best brand and the best tool for the job. If you're going to use pins, you really need to be able to do them almost perfect. Run a line of glue down the back of these. So when I pin them, I'll have some glue. And I don't want any squeeze out. That's a lot more on that end than I want. So I'm just going to take that piece of scrap wood, scrape that off. This is going to go here. I can already feel it sticking. That's nice. I'm getting a little squeeze out I don't like. I'll clean that up with some water and a rag here real quick. Those are so tiny. So we're going to go ahead and do this with the other cabinet. That probably brings close to what we're trying to get to do today. I really appreciate you watching the video today and taking an interest about what we're doing here, and hopefully I've shown you something that makes sense and something that might give you an idea of how to do something yourself. So just remember, it's not the tools, it's the craftsman. Y'all get in the shop, have some fun. And please, if you enjoy this, look right down here and you can subscribe to my channel and or follow me in any way in several different ways on my website, on my blogs. And I really appreciate you watching. Y'all have a good day. Thanks.